It's that time. It's time for Deemcnairontheair on the air. That's right. It's something new just for you. Today's guest is Darryl Owens, Reverend Darryl Owens. And we're going to talk about what? Grief. Let's get to the conversation, everybody. Welcome.
I want to talk about grief of a job. I have come across people who have lost their job by error, by layoff, by merger, and they're grieving the job even though they're well qualified to get another job. Is that grief any different than grief of death?
Well, it's different in that when you're losing that job, you're losing income. So it's affecting other things, not just the relationship. And some people, their identity is tied up in their job. And if they didn't do much outside of the job and they lost that job, they feel like they've lost a lot of their identity. And then that also, they're going to grieve, but there's some other things they're going to kick up, which is good.
That's
because,
good.
Yeah, because it can, if you embrace it, because it will invite you to look at how you've seen yourself professionally.
Scary.
I'm Darryl. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a chaplain. I'm an ordained clergy. I have many different roles. I have many different roles. I do many different things. But I'm still Darryl. And I'm not going to put all of my, as some of the old people say, put all my eggs in one basket when it comes to who I am. And so sometimes I think if that does happen in a person's life and they are struggling with that grief, this is good. They can go and talk to somebody about their grief, because then maybe they can see how you can see how you can do it differently when you get the next role, you get the next job. For me, like my wife and kids always say, we know you love your job. I do. It's my vocation. It's what I've been called to do. I thank God that I've been able to do it where I am. But if I'm moved someplace else, my assignment is different, and I'm okay with that. I'm not defined by all of this.
It's the work.
Yes.
It's not the location.
It's the service. Ministry is service. And I'm serving no matter where I am. I do a lot of service in different areas, and I love it. That's what I'm called to do. So if this person I think they can grow from it after they talk to somebody. Because the benefit of going to somebody, as we've been saying, getting professional help if you need something. Not just grief, but maybe you're in the congregation, you're dealing with mental illness. Go get help. Because by talking to someone else, they can help you understand yourself more, understand the challenges you're experiencing, and help point you in the direction of getting the help you need to even be better than you were before. Yeah.
Now you said your identity is in your job. I'm going to digress and go back. So we have not just a couple. You said you had a twin brother that passed. So with that, was some of your identity in him? Because we hear scientifically about twins. So how does a person redefine themselves when they're not Darryl? They're not Darryl Owens, who knows that I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a minister, I'm a chaplain, I'm a grief counselor. You know all those things, but you don't let one thing define you. As you said, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. But what about people, whether it's siblings, a couple, it can even be, I've found sometimes, like I've seen it with grandparents or an older person who has reared someone for so many years. How do you find your identity when the very person, when it's tied to a person, is gone now?
Yeah.
I really want to say, how do you do it if you're not going to go get professional help? So let's dive there where the person, for whatever reason, either the resource or the willingness to go get professional help isn't there, but they do have a support network. How could they go about finding, I don't know if that's proper, but finding or re-identifying themselves now that other half that they're used to is gone.
Yeah, because you're having to recreate a new normal for your life.
A new normal.
A new normal for your life. Let's use the example you gave of my twin brother. Yeah, every time our birthdays came up, or every time things came up where they said, you're a twin? I'm like, yes, I'm a twin. I'm like, I hope they don't ask the next question. So what does he do? Or where is he? Then you have to say, well, he died. Oh, I'm so sorry. And then it's like throws a monkey wrench in the conversation. But yes, for me, I had to look at things differently because I am a twin who doesn't have a surviving twin. And so yes, it was a new normal for me. For those other examples you gave, hopefully if they're not going to get professional help, hopefully somebody in their circle of support, their community of support, can get something to help that loved one. Maybe they can read something and say, this is something I learned. I've had people call me and say, my friend won't, but can you give me some pointers? Sure, I'll give you some pointers on how to talk to them. And maybe they can get to a place where they can feel safe talking to someone else who has learned more about it, who can help them see things differently.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, because see, many a times I think that the challenge or the fear is that if I go and talk to someone professionally, that I'm going to leave feeling like I'm worse than I am. It's like a lot of people who don't want to judge me. Right, they don't want to go to the doctor because if I go to the doctor, they're going to tell me something bad about myself. But wouldn't it be better to go and hear and get this thing corrected, whatever it is.
Develop a
and
battle
then you're
plan.
a better person.
Yeah, develop a battle
Yeah,
plan.
you're a better person because of it. And so I think sometimes that's why people are a little bit more hesitant. Even if it's going to talk to their pastor, I don't want them to think anything of me, like as you said, judging me. And what's very hard for people when they are going through whatever the circumstances may be, they're suffering in some kind of way. To be misunderstood and to be incorrectly judged, yes, it is debilitating. But if you're watching this program and that's happened to you, I encourage you find somebody else to go to. Find someone else who can keep on, pray, ask God, get someone else praying for you, or someone else who knows somebody, so that you can get to the right person who can understand what you're going through, maybe not having gone through it themselves, but have learned from enough people who've gone through that they can point you in the right direction where you can get further healing and feel more whole inside of you so that you can know you're okay. We're all going through something in life. And for me, the thing I love about living is learning. I'm learning about more, as you've always been saying, learning more about ourselves and how to be there for other people, because my goal is that when I deal with people, that they can see you're okay, you're just going through something that may not be okay, but you yourself can be okay. But that something is not okay. I do a group with specialized individuals, and what I will encourage them, I say, well, tell me your name. They will say what their name is. I said, that's who you are. You're not whatever your condition or your diagnosis is. All right? I am not a heart attack or whatever, cancer or whatever the condition is. I'm Darryl. I may just be dealing with such and such a thing. And so if people can find that safe place, that's the important thing. They need to feel safe about wherever they're going, especially when they're in a very vulnerable position in life because of whatever the challenge is. Yes.
And it's hard, but I would liken it to people who say they'll never get married again, and then they do. Because when you're going through divorce, or when you've gone through a bad relationship, and then someone's talking about committing in a relationship, in that moment, you cannot imagine being in a relationship again with someone else. But all of a sudden, you feel a spark. You feel a flutter. You feel a heat wave. You feel a chill. You feel something that connects you to an individual again. And before you know it, you loved once and now you're in love again. And I like what someone once told me about relationships. They said, it's okay to be in love, but you need to love. Because when you're in love, usually that is the heightened moment that everything seems perfect. But when you love...
Infatuation.
That's what we tell our kids.
Everything is perfect.
That's what we tell those kids. But when you love, love covers a multitude of sins.
It's a decision.
It's a decision. And it's an effort. Because my husband once, said to me, he said, like, I love you. And I think I said, and he said, and I said, well, boo, I love you too. And he went, let's say it. And he, it was nothing negative about it. What he was reminding me was there's energy, there's action. And you will find if you're having, and this is Dee's little relationship advice here, okay? My 4-second advice. If you are disconnected in your relationship and you think you're going to connect by never putting any word, action to it, I got a revelation for you. A positive and a negative on opposite sides of the room don't do anything. It's when they connect that dynamite, power, energy ignites. So I've learned through my years of grief but healing, it takes action and words. So if you're not going to go get help, I like what you said. You may call up someone as a friend, a family member, and say, hey, I know you're a professional, with grief or with, depression, whatever it is. Because even though we're focusing on grief, it all ties into so many areas of your life. Get some tips. I'm not big on the book. I found that people don't want to read the whole book. Reading the first chapter of a book and not getting to the end of a book does not make you a professional. Okay, just my 2 cents. But calling a professional and saying, hey, Darryl, my mom, my sister is really struggling. Just wondering, I'm seeing this. What would you recommend? They're telling me they won't go to the doctor. They won't go to a mental health counselor. They won't go to the pastor right now. What should I be looking for? Those are good things that you can do. We ask people for advice on our hair, on our clothing, and everything else. Why won't we ask for advice about the people we care about?
And if you're the one that this person going through is talking to, if I can offer you any advice, my advice would be to remember we have 2 ears and 1 nose. So we should be listening twice as much as we speak. I just said 2 ears and 1 nose. I meant 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we should be listening twice as much as we speak. Because what I've noticed in dealing with people with grief, they know who won't listen to what they have to say. And they'll be very quick they know if you don't really want to hear it. And they're like, oh, I'm fine. I know for a number of people that, being at church, people that I will see, I'll say, I'm going to look in your eyes and I'm going to ask you, how are you doing? And so I've had some that say, look in my eyes, Darryl, see, I'm doing okay. I'm like, good, we're all right. Because some of the ones who will move, I say, come back in, let's see what's going on. Because many times they feel like they're not heard. So if you're going to deal with people in grief, be able to sit and listen to what's going on with them without judging where they are. Maybe it's just a bad 10 minutes. In an hour or 2, they're going to be much better. But be able to sit with them, like I heard one person call sitting on the morning bench with them. No, you're not down there, groveling in grief with them, but you're there to be a support, to not judge them, to hear what they're saying. And many times they bounce back on their own if someone is willing to listen to the hard stuff. And that's what I would offer if I can. If you're dealing with someone who is grieving, doesn't seem to be moving, just listen to them. Just listen to what they're saying. Because sometimes in their expressing themselves, they begin to connect the dots for themselves. But they just need somebody to listen and to let them know that they're important and what they're going through is important. It's important. And if I can also add something to that,
please.
If you've had experience with grief, be very careful in how you use it. Use it as a resource.
A resource.
A resource with the person says, yes, I understand a little bit about grief. I've had some myself. But don't go into your story. Because if you go into your story, they may say, well, mine isn't as bad as yours, so I'm not going to share mine. And therefore, you've cut them off from any kind of help you could render to them. So it's about, if they say, well, do you understand anything about loss? Yes, but this is about you, not me. And I want to hear what's going on with you. Well, tell me, how did you deal? Well, this is how I dealt with that, but that's me. How would you like to deal with this? So making sure that we're listening to them, we're honoring this experience that they're going through, because it's new for them. May not be new for you, but it's new for them. And yes, death is something we're all going to experience if you live long enough. But still, we can honor. You wanted people to honor what was going on with you, so we have to do the same thing for others, and don't constantly tell them how to do it, because then you cause them to shut up, and they'll go internal, and they won't share with you what's going on because they're afraid you're going to judge them and judge it.
Well, I want to, piggyback on that and say, I don't think you got it wrong. We do have 2 ears and we do have one mouth, but we do have one nose. And based on what you just said at the end, I would ask, is it that we not only need to listen twice as much, and yes, speak less, but smell less? And for those who may be from the South or certain corners of the North, we've all heard that phrase, you smell yourself. And I have had to chastise myself because I'm so fortunate to have a variety of friends, but maybe the problem is sometimes we not only need to listen twice as much and zip this twice as much, is tilt that little smeller down and stop smelling yourself. Because even if they're sharing, I say this because it happened to me, I felt like the person's nose went up a little bit. And that was almost like judging. So we might have to do a show one day about body language.
Yeah.
And whether or not sitting this way or leaning or propping, because at that moment it made me feel like they were exuding a superiority.
Yeah. And that's going to shut you down.
And that's exactly, I thought, okay, this is the one time you might see the intuitive side of me. But okay, I'm going to finish right there. And I went, thank you. Oh my God. I'll be right. Let me go speak to this. And I walked away because I don't have that side that I show very often. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what I'm missing, but your body language. And I'm glad he's laughing because later I laughed about it, but at that moment, I was so hurt. And being an instrumental person, if you all have heard of the Myers-Briggs, and I know you have, Darryl, a lot of times people assume because you're watching the Deemcnairontheair on the air show, that's me. Because people see me either before camera or they would hear me on the radio, or like you're facilitating, you are ministering, they automatically assume you're an extrovert by this Myers-Briggs test. And lo and behold, they'd be shocked when I do it with groups of friends and colleagues. I was right there on the line. When I go home, my husband probably wishes I'd come out. Amen.
I'm an introvert too. Now, people will think I'm extrovert, but I'm an introvert that learned to be extroverted. I grew up as a pastor's kid. You had to be extroverted, so to speak. But when I go home, I don't want to deal with a lot of people and a lot of things.
The phone, in my house, are you like that? The phone can ring. Praise the Lord. If it's important, they will either leave a message or call back. And my husband was asking me, he said, you're so different. And I went, what you don't realize is I had to pull on all of my resources to do what I did. I'm drained. I need this time of refueling. And you all have heard me say as a woman of faith, there's a time to refuel. Well, for me, I'm not a natural extrovert like everyone thinks I am. So I have to go home and refuel. Well, for me, when I say I'm hurt, I'm hurt. And so with what you were saying about the 2 ears, and the mouth, I do agree with the nose. So watch it. Maybe you are trying to listen twice as hard and your lips are closed, but that inert thing inside of us tilts our little head up and we're listening and we are judging. And it may not be a conscious thing, but subconscious sure does rule a lot. That's where some of our serial killers come from. Their subconscious is come. But all of that, is something I think is so powerful, is to remind us, don't shut people down, even when we're trying to do good. Do listen more. Now, I wanted to ask this, and I hope I'm not delving too personal. I know we're going to, run out of time at some point. But when you were talking about having experienced a variety of loss, I cannot sit here and say to you, I identify with that. I can tell you what I've heard and experienced with friends. My family, we live into our hundreds, and so I've lost members over 80. I've lost only one under the age of 55. 5. And yes, I did faint on that one. No one dies in my family. So when my mom told me, she said she realized I wasn't there. And she was so used to the instrumental griever in me, it was a shock. Because it was someone I cared about, not only deeply, but they were young.
Right.
But all of that said, what I used to would tell people who would hear the first few years that this particular loved one of mine, my aunt, had passed, the first thing they would say is, how is your aunt? And when I said, oh, well, she's passed, I'm sorry. And they felt a need to delve into what happened. How did she die? When did she die? Did they expect she was going to die? Had she been sick? Is it okay as the griever to shut people down on that and say, thank you for your condolences. I really don't want to delve there. What have you been up to? Is it okay to do that as part of your own healing?
Yes, I do that with parents when they're getting ready to leave the hospital. One thing I will say to them, those who have lost a child, you might be discharged and downstairs in the lobby waiting for the car to come around. You may be there in the lobby with someone else who's leaving with a perfectly healthy baby. You're going to feel some kind of way about that. When you're engaging that person who didn't know and they're asking you, what happened? Their normal, natural reaction is, what happened? And then you feel the need to take care of them. You're the bereaved. It's not your job to take care of them. It's their job to take care of you. So what I always say, it's a different example with the same principles that you experience as far as your aunt is concerned. At that time, you could just say, thank you for your condolences. I'm really trying to deal with it now, and I'm struggling.
Thank you for your condolences.
We're trying to deal with this right now, and right now we're not doing the best with dealing it. So if you don't mind, and people are like, oh, I understand. Because many a times people will have spoken before they thought, because it was a reaction. Like, what happened? Because we don't expect these things to happen. Like, you didn't expect your aunt. You fainted. That was your body response to this. Like, oh my goodness, it was overwhelming. And then when somebody's asking you, you just say, I'm still trying to deal with this. So if you don't mind, I'm not there yet, but I will get there. And when I get there, we can talk. And just leave it like that. And like I said, you don't bless anybody out because they don't mean anything.
Unless it's the anger is a part of your grief.
Anger is a part of grief.
Anger is a part of grief.
It is a part of grief.
Do take it with a grain of salt, people, if you're running into that. I have ran into that. And didn't hear till later and felt bad for judging them that they had lost.
But I still have to know myself, even if I'm grieving and I know anger is a part of my grief, which males it's a whole nother conversation. But males, that's more of a socially acceptable emotion that we may show is the anger. I still have to know myself, and I can't take that out on someone else who doesn't know anything, didn't have anything to do with this. I do have to know myself, emotional intelligence. I have to know myself and know what my limits are, what I can do and what I can't do, because it's not fair for me to go off on you. You don't even know what's going on. And I've made your day worse, and you may have been trying to comfort me. But I'm taking it out on you, and it's not your fault. That's not right either. So.
Did you hear that? So just because you're having a bad day, grief or no grief, it's not fair, it's not just, it's not right for you to take it out on someone else. And Darryl, I know we're running out of time, but I do want to just touch real quickly. For people who may think, well, he's a chaplain, he's a minister, he's a reverend. So I hear this, but there's if I'm not a Catholic, I'm not Christian, if I don't have a faith, if I'm not Jewish, this isn't really applicable to me because he doesn't understand where I'm at. Is grief based on faith, or is it that grief is grief? It's just your faith, your culture, your background brings a different perspective to the table.
Yes, it brings and as far as it being a chaplain, hospital chaplain, when we deal with people, it's not about our spiritual journey or identification. It's about the persons. So we help them to use their own spiritual language, spiritual context to help them get through what this is. Grief is grief. It goes across all cultures, and all cultures have different particular rules that they use when it comes to grief. So you may want to know what that is for that person who has everyone is spiritual, but maybe they don't express it through religion. So what's a healthy way for them to express their grief, to be able to walk down that journey and recreate new normals for their life? That's what I would offer them and try to help them connect with. Yes, so maybe they don't go to a church or a temple or a mosque or something, but maybe where they get refreshed is the beach or gardens or something. Well, I would encourage them to do that and to think about that person, especially maybe if that person loved the beach. Go to the beach and say, this time is in memory of my loved one. Pick up a shell, say, this is significant of my relationship with that loved one.
I like that.
Yeah.
Guys, Darryl, our time has gone so quickly. Oh my gosh, I
Well,
just
thank
want to
you.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Because this has been enlightening for me, and you guys know I want to jumpstart your life. I want to be the one that is a catalyst for positive change in your life, in our community, and in the world at large. We learned a lot today. Intuitive, instrumental. Look that up. Look up the word alone. And then research. Find out who you are, not just with grief. Find out who you are. But then when you're grieving something, work, relationship, it may be loss of a limb, it may be a sickness, whatever it is, what we've learned today from Reverend Darryl Owens is that you can create a new normal. That's right, a new normal for you. And in addition to that, you can listen twice as much, whether you're talking about grief or not. Speak half of what you are wanting to speak. And these little twists, put the nose down, guys. Don't be judging people with that little superiority. But do what you can do to improve your life. You don't really need to improve you. You need to be you. And remember what Dee says? Because it's a new day. We're doing it a new way. With Reverend Darryl Owens, thank you again, Darryl.
Thank you so much.
Right here on Deemcnairontheair Show. That's right, the Deemcnairon on the Air Show.
And I would like to extend our special thanks to Reverend Darryl Owens for joining us. Remember, it's not about you and it's not about me. It's all about the we.